A 92-year-old Raleigh woman found out her grandmother is documented in the Library of Congress through the WPA Slave Narratives.
And it unlocked new truths and old lies. WRAL's Chris Lee shows us how Gloria Feimster is connecting to her family's story in Black History Month.
I didn't know my grandmother's parents, so this is interesting.
This is 92-year-old Gloria Feimster, a Raleigh native. And Gloria just discovered part of her grandmother's story lives in the Library of Congress. There's just one problem. What was recorded almost 90 years ago is full of inaccuracies. Emma Blaylock was interviewed in 1937 for the WPA Slave Narratives, a project the U.S. government undertook to try to document the stories of surviving Black Americans who were once enslaved. Emma Blaylock's story recounts some of her experience being enslaved in what used to be Auburn, North Carolina, current parts of East Raleigh. So here's the real issue. According to birth certificates, Gloria's grandmother would have been born in 1862, meaning she would have been only 3 years old at the time of emancipation. So there's no way she would have had any memory of enslavement.
During the interview, you probably want to answer the questions as accurately as you can, but also everything is about self-preservation, almost like fight or flight at that point. And then also maybe a creative, poetic license on the interviewer's part.
Emma Blaylock is one of about 100 stories from the WPA narratives of people from Raleigh. Local historian Alan Welsh says that he's encountered similar stories of inaccurate accounts from other local families.
Sometimes it was a communication issue where the interviewer would record what they heard the person say, but that wasn't really what they said.
No, sir, no reading and writing. You had to work. Ha ha. You let your master or missus catch you with a book. That was a strict rule that no learning was to be taught. I can't read and write.
Gloria would have been 4 at the time this interview was conducted. She says her grandmother would help her read the Bible as a little girl.
So that's why I was questioning the fact that they said she couldn't read or write. I said, well, she must have been able to read because she used to, when I would read and I would get a big word, she would always tell me what the word was.
She also points out the inaccuracies in the language that represents her grandmother in this narrative.
I still haven't heard the language like that before. I haven't heard anyone talk like this, except in the movie probably. But when I read that, I just couldn't associate with it with my grandmother.
So how does this happen? Why does this happen?
The WPA interviews are usually quite complicated and a complicated bit of history for students and for researchers. We have to remember this is the height of Jim Crow segregation when Black citizens were not considered equals with whites. And then folks were hired on a local basis to go interview subjects in the area.
Even though the details are fuzzy, Gloria and Angel had a chance to connect with part of their family history they knew nothing about, a piece of Raleigh history documented in the Library of Congress.
We have family reunions and we've done our family tree. So this will just strengthen everything, make it that much more solid and sound.
I'm sure she knew how to read. What an interesting story. That's Chris Lee reporting. Our Julian Grace was able to uncover some of his family history through these same WPA narratives. That story airs next Friday here on WRAL. Looking forward to that one too.